Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films, continuing the camp chatter. Today, really excited. First time on the show. James Madison alum, linebacker. I think he called some defense. Firezone show. A friend of Michael Crawford is a friend of mine. That's just the way it works, Dennard. We got Dennard and Melton on the show. Dennard, how you feeling, man? How you doing?
I'm good, Jason. Thank you for the nice introduction. It's nice to hear James Madison out of someone else's mouth.
There you go. There you go. JMU. See, I'm a Baltimore kid, so they're not too far, man. They're not too far. It's always been JMU to me. So I
Yes,
don't know about our West Coast fans or our overseas fans, but yes, I'm familiar with James Madison. Absolutely,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes. Good
So
deal.
being a linebacker like you are, I mean, what better time to be a fan of inside linebackers? Maybe there was another time in Ravens history. I mean, we did have the greatest of all time. But
Yes.
this year, not one but two potential Pro Bowl players. That would be cool. That would be pretty cool if that happened. By the way, feeding off of each other. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen. So much fun to watch at the end of last year, and coming into this year, Dennard. Expectations got to be really high for this group, and it's got to be one of the best strengths on the team. You can look at the safety group, for instance. It's some other groups maybe, but this linebacker group really stands out.
It's probably a collective group, the best we've had here or since the Ray Lewis, Bart Scott kind of realm, where it's just those two were a different type of breed of just nasty, destroying everything in their path. But I'm glad you mentioned the linebackers and Ray Lewis and everything. But just think about the past. Where have we come from? Even in the last 3 years, let's go back to 2019. Cleveland Browns, Ravens, week 4. It could not be any more different than what we were putting out there at that point. No disrespect to those two gentlemen, but it is, you can't even say it's night and day. It is dramatically different. And I think you saw once Roquan Smith showed up, like it was a different defense. Even in the Saints game, he had been here a week, and it was noticeably different how calm everyone was. And I think that's where a lot of people miss about linebackers and them being underrated and not being on the field. I think there's two big things. One is communication and calmness, because we have to know everything. We got to know what the D-line's doing, and we need to know what the secondary is doing. If you don't have smart guys in those roles, you're going to struggle. And if you look across the league, tight ends have been running rampant for 10 years. Why? Because there's no inside linebacker play. It's been terrible for years. And then you run up against teams like San Francisco, who's got stud ducks there. No teams throw over the middle. And I think you're going to see that this year with these two guys who have seemed like they understand their mission this year. They understand what this defense could be as a group. And with Smith having an entire year and an off season, I'm sure he hung out with PQ down at the bayou doing some fishing, just talking football, talking shop, talking about life, family. And, from the clips I've seen from coming from camp, and everybody's, I saw today everybody's kind of making fun of Queen wrapping up. You got to remember, this guy only has played, this is 4th year, 5.5 years of linebacker at a high level. He's still got a ton of space to grow.
I think so too. And you know what though? If I had to, here's a hot take for you. I think Patrick Queen will become a better player, like you're saying, next year, the year after that, the year after that. I mean, came in I think 20 years old, so his game's going to grow. But the position he's in this year, next to Roquan, I think when it's all said and done, we look back on Patrick Queen's career, and if we study this film like as close as we study the Ravens for every other team, this might be his most productive, his best season, because he's got a big dog next to him in Roquan. And PQ, the pressure's off. Like, he can just play free. And we saw it last year. If he gets blocked, or if he doesn't really do a great job on a play, Roquan's going to clean it up. It's just a beautiful thing to see those two work together.
Oh, it is refreshing. And don't get me wrong, having Roquan on the squad has been amazing and everything of the sort. But the change in the coaching, the change from my dear friend Rob Ryan.
Yes.
Rob. And his linebackers dancing, moving in conjunction with winks, whatever that was, defense. And to have guys who have come in and taught fundamentals, have taught the basics of football, have shown PQ what it is to be a linebacker in this league, not just to talk it, but to walk it, to be physical about it. And it's not about one play, it's about being consistent all the way through. And I think having Roquan with him, now he can look next to him, doesn't have to be confused, don't have to think very much. That was a beautiful part about when I was playing ball at JMU. I had the best linebackers I've ever played with, Derek Lloyd and Derek Pack. And these boys could fly, could tackle, could do everything. But I was the brains of the operation because I got dudes lined up and let them be who they were and allow them to be how great they can be. And you need that on the field where you can turn to a guy and he's like, you got hook curl, or he's going B gap, you got A, remember that, or check the flare on the screen pass, or check the flare on the blitz. Having that guy on the field who can just give you a little tidbits where you're not overthinking is amazing, and it's just a complete difference maker.
Yeah, and it showed last year too, where the Ravens didn't completely trust Patrick Queen. Whatever we think about him, they felt like he needed a Josh Bynes next to him. Brought Josh Bynes back twice in the middle of the season, and then traded for PQ. So whatever we think of Patrick Queen, the Ravens felt like they could get the best out of Patrick Queen if they had that kind of guy, the Dennard of the defense, to line everybody up, to really organize everything, and just let PQ play free.
Yeah, I think they knew what they had in Queen. You got to back up a little bit. You got to look at what's happened in the first 3 years of PK's career. He had COVID, comes in 2021. He's supposed to be a stud duck at Mike. Mind you, he has played less than 3 years of full-time football, and he's expected to be in the middle of a defense in the NFL, calling probably, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, dealing with probably one of the worst built defenses in 20 years with the Ravens.
Worst built defenses? What do you mean by that?
Worst built defenses. Because I call Wink's defense a gadget defense. Because you're lining up, dictating, you're letting the offense dictate. So you get a formation, you match up to that formation. And so you blitz off of how that formation is, and you're blitzing regardless. So even if you have to send someone from the opposite side of the field to cover middle third, that's what the blitz calls. That's how we're getting there. That was, I thought the stat always kind of threw me off, and I thought it was always funny, where the Ravens always played well against first and second year quarterbacks, third-year quarterbacks. Well, there's a reason behind that, because once you see it enough, and you can watch Aaron Rodgers do this, you can watch Tom Brady do this, you can watch Andy Dalton do this, which is once you identify where they're coming from, which is most likely from the field, you throw to either where they're coming from or down the seam. And that's it. And you can just destroy that defense up, down, left, right, and sideways. And then once they're in man coverage, they're not tricking anything. They're coming after you. And I think that's this defense that he's in now. Zone defense is always a favorite of mine because it allows everybody's eyes to be forward.
Right.
Everyone's looking. Everyone can see it. Everyone can talk about it. Everyone can do something about it. There are 11 guys running to the football. There's 11 guys coming this way. So there's less than 10% chance of plays breaking for 40 and 50 yards if you got 11 pairs of eyes on the ball.
It makes sense.
This allows Patrick Queen to be a heat-seeking missile because now he doesn't have to worry about, well, I have to come in a different angle because the blitz came from that direction or we stunted that way and I got to cut him off and do this. No, all the flow lanes are the same. Going left, right, everything's different. One or two coverage calls may tell you to turn the ball back inside, but 9 times out of 10, we want it wide because we want guys running.
Gotcha. You know, we were talking about this last night, the difference between Wink and Mike McDonald's defense and how it's helped everybody. It's helped the tackling. It's helped the organization. We saw more sacks, more emphasis on the front four, taking the pressure off the cornerbacks. A lot of, and it's just really, Dennard, it's hard to scout those guys. In college, they're not doing anything like Wink did. And, the Wink looked good, like you said, against the backup quarterbacks, against your second-tier quarterbacks. But you can't trick the Patrick Mahomes, the Joe Burrows of the league. It's just not going to work. You might as well flood the passing lanes, rely on your rush, send PQ and Roquan up the middle, effective blitzers. That's the next thing I want to ask you about. Special skill that Patrick Queen had as soon as he came into the league, I thought, was his ability to blitz, his ability to time it, to get skinny through the hole. And then when the quarterback would step up or make his move, PQ can change direction so quickly, pounce on someone. Roquan's an excellent blitzer too. So having those two be able to kind of be a part of the pass rush, I think is a big bonus of this Ravens team and gets overlooked. People look at linebackers, their run defense, and they'll even say, okay, they're pretty good in coverage. And I don't think most fans really know what they're looking at from that angle. But as blitzers, I think that it goes unheralded how good both of these guys are.
Oh, they understand how to blitz. You can't be a great blitzer unless you understand how to blitz. Because there are guys who just run in holes just to be running in holes. And then there's other guys who are looking for a hole to run through, make a hole when they need to. And I think that's what Queen is able to do. I think Roquan understands using his hands into blitzes. He's going to see bigger guys anyway because they're always going to roll line coverage to the mic. So he's always going to see a bigger back or the center turning towards him anyway. But I think the biggest part moving forward is not only having these two guys on the field all the time, but now you have Roquan as your green dot guy. So now you don't have, no disrespect to Chuck Clark, but in coverage later in the season. You can kind of see, you could probably saw a little bit last year, and they hit it a little bit at the beginning of the year because they were trying to put Kyle Hamilton over the top, which he needs to stay where he belongs, which is about 15, 20 yards in the line of scrimmage, but hopefully he's gotten a little bit better this year. But having the ability to have different type of secondary guys on the field allows your blitz packages to be unique and different, and also allows you to have the better players on the field who are better blitzers than having to keep a guy who is an okay blitzer and okay in coverage, but he's a great communicator. That's doesn't always work well.
Right. I think that the flexibility of having these two on the field together 100% of the time, it's something that I think, I get into arguments, debates a lot about the position being devalued, but I look at the flexibility that Patrick and Roquan give us. And Dennard, I'm looking at this, standard base nickel defense that we can throw out there, and it could probably be effective versus 11 or 12. We have a safety like Kyle Hamilton, a strong safety who can come down and be the seventh guy in that box and be very effective. We could have a big corner like Brandon Stevens lined up in the slot, another good run defender. If you look at this, our defensive line full of big guys, Michael Pierce's, Travis Jones, Broderick Washington, another good run defender. With PQ, Roquan behind him, Kyle Hamilton on the field. I feel like we can stop the run in different types against different types of formations with just our base nickel defense.
Oh, absolutely. That's the only way this defense works. 6 guys have to whoop their 5 guys up front. And if you want to throw in a tight end, that's fine. But tight end in place, Kyle Hamilton's in play. So now 7 on 6. But your 6 has to control that 5. And if you can't, and I have to bring a box player down without it, now I'm stuck looking boring in the back end. And you don't want to be stuck being boring, because then guys like Joe Burrow and those guys will start teeing off or start understanding what's going on. So being more invested up front, as you can see with the Washington extension, I think that's a great. I think it frees them up to probably put the franchise tag on Matabike if he has a blowout year. I think that's the game plan. That's just me talking.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that, because he a couple more sacks. He's in line for 25, 22, 24, 25 million.
Oh, if he comes out and plays the way he played the last, I would say 6 games last year, where he was unblockable for half of games at times, he took Calais Campbell's advice, and you're unblockable, child. Go destroy stuff.
Right.
If he continues on that pace, it's going to be hard for them to re-sign him without without tagging him. And then you got inexperience out on the ends. It's youthful inexperience. I think they are talented out there with Owe and Jabo, and if Bowser comes back, we don't know, but yeah. And other guys that can go out there. I think they have what they need. And I'll just say this now. I don't know if Javavian Clowney is more about run defense than it is pass rush. I think him and Owe as your run ends would be disgusting.
I think he fits. I think he fits really well, because we don't have that kind of bully enforcer. I mean, Owe can set the edge. Bowser can set the edge. But Clowney, to me, is a strong side defensive end. And you can't mess around with him with a tackle. You try to double team him, push him off the spot with a right tackle and a tight end. It's just not going to work. I mean, he's just a butt kicker, man. And I think that he would fit with this team, whether Bowser's back or not, just as that strong side defensive end enforcer, and let everything else fall into place. I'm a big believer in David Ajabo, by the way. Like I've seen enough of him in college. His just natural ability to change directions, the little Euro step he does to get people off balance, the way he hunts the ball. He's got dip. There's just everything about him just screams that he's going to be effective from day one. So I feel like, okay, you can probably put Adafi on the rush end, Ajabo on the rush end. Bowser's a Sam, that kind of like that role. I've had this discussion a bunch, so I don't want to really go into it, but that role in Mike McDonald's defense is reduced a lot, I think. Clowney, just a big badass on the strong side.
Well, and to your point before, they don't have that bully type guy up front yet. They had it with JPP. He was kind of the bully last year. And before that, you had McPhee. You had a couple other guys who fit that role of being kind of that tone setter up front. Clarence Campbell, you can kind of say that, but he was just more of just a mountain that you just couldn't move. But yeah, bringing him in, I see the physicality you're talking about, and they are kind of missing that type of feature front. I know Javavian doesn't like, and I think this is why he's going back to think about it, because he hasn't played in a 4-3. He's played in a bunch of 3-4s. So he's used to being down on the end. I don't know if he feels like he can be effective as a stand-up DN in a sense of a 4-man. So I think that's
he wants
probably
more
why
of
he's thinking.
I think he wants more of a rush role somewhere where he can come in and just
Yeah.
be hunting sacks.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that would be his role here.
Yeah, I think they told him basically, and I think that's why Van Noy, is probably their first choice, which is why this offer is now out and about and circulating in the universe.
Gotcha.
Because Van Noy fits better in this defense because he's a little more versatile than Clowney being able to not be worried about something. And it seems like he wants to free himself up.
So I want to switch gears here because we think we covered PQ Roquan really well. Adafio Way, opinions all up and down on him on the flock. I mean, from casual fans to film guys to numbers guys to you name it. Some people love him, some people don't love him. Where do you stand on Adafio Way? What are you expecting from him this year? Just give it to whatever your general thoughts are, Dennard.
I think he's going to have a breakout year. He's just like PQ. Look at his timeline. He came in during the pandemic. He got hurt. Last year, he had to play 18 different positions because Bowser was hurt. Justin Houston was hurt. JPP was just up to steam. This man was playing 70, 75 snaps because they didn't have anybody else who could do it. If you watch the last 6 games last year, when Bowser was back for about 3 or 4 weeks and the rotation was healthy, played a heck of a lot better with limited snaps, around 40 to 50 snaps. I expect him. He didn't have any offseason surgeries. He had a whole entire offseason to get healthy. So he probably only have to play one position right now. I think everyone got down on him because he was a first-round pick. Well, he was a 32nd pick. Could have lightly been middle of the second round. You take chances on guys in the first round. He's one of those guys who didn't play a lot of football. He's got 3 years under his belt. He's got time to grow healthy. I think he's going to have a spectacular year. I think he's going to surprise a lot of guys because he's going to jump out of the hungry because he's hunting for a new contract.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting close. It's amazing how fast things moved in Ard. It's like we just drafted him. Oh, well, yeah. Now we got to figure out his 5th-year option and all that other stuff. It moves fast. And, I think that's a good point. A lot was put on his plate. I mean, the beginning of last year, we literally only had Adafio Way and Justin Houston as the outside linebackers. We started bringing in guys like Dennard and Stephen Means got hurt, and it was just a mess. And until Bowser got back, and I thought that my main bugaboo with Adafio Way has been his lack of ability to get off the snap. That's what I want to see from him. I mean, I could do cut ups after cut up after cut up of everybody else halfway through their first step, and he's still dead set in his stance. That's what I want to see from him this year. Have you noticed anything in particular other than that, or did you notice that and anything else that you look to him to improve on?
He just has to finish. I think that was one of his points. He could get there, but not finish. And I think that comes with a little more from the hips. a little more strength up in the shoulders. He can dip, claw, and grab and rip in that type of way. First step is concerning, but I think that gets fixed because Chuck Smith is teaching them how to be a pass rusher and not a defensive end. Got to remember who their coaches were the last 3 years. They taught them to a scheme. They taught them, if this play comes here, you've got to do this and do that. They didn't teach them how to be a football player. Chuck Smith is teaching them how to be a football player. Watch the ball. Get off. Get off. Get off. Get off. He's probably nauseated at this point of how many times he's heard get off.
I mean, I see him doing the drills at practice all the time. It's a race. I think they race 5 or 10 yards, whatever it is. But it's, it's football on a stick. Get off the ball, race 5. And when I saw that, Dennard, I'm like, this is what he needed. I think, to me, it's like everything else. If your first step is slow, everything else you do is just negated. It's taken down a notch. You can be great, but if that left tackle is sitting on you, waiting for you to make a move, then, I mean, there's really, especially against the best in the game, there's really not much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, just that's the whole idea about getting off the football with him. It is being aggressive. And I don't think he was focused enough because he was worried about everything else. Now, you don't have to worry about everything else. All I'm going to do is put my hand in the dirt. I already got the play call. It's very simple. Either I'm rushing or I'm rushing. Like, now all I'm going to do is look at the football, and I've got my game plan. I got my game plan in my head. I've watched this left tackle on 100 snaps. I know every pass drop. This is how I'm going to beat him. If he shows his right shoulder dip, I'm going to dip and rip and get around the outside. If he shows me too high on the left end shoulder, I'm going to press him, and I'm going to try to rip inside and get inside, or I'm going to straight bull rush him into the quarterback. Like, what?
Yeah, I think we're going to see that long arm a lot this year from him. I think he's got that in him.
Oh, without doubt. If he's taught properly, he won't be able to get blocked without getting held, because he's going to be able to get his inside arm out in front, and the only way you can attack that is to chop the arm and pull it down. Well, now you got to be physical. So that's where the climb and the shoulder and then the hip twist, which he hasn't shown yet, but I'm sure Chuck Smith is teaching him. Once you get that corner, you need to make your hips literally parallel to that quarterback. Because you get your hips turned parallel, now I got power. Now I can turn you. I can face you up. It's just like basketball. And I'm sure he's teaching.
Right.
If I can square you up, I got you. If you still got me on the edge, you can still ride me out. But once I get you squared up, and that's why you see Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa, they do the exact same thing. When they're rushing at, they get square real quick. And you see their numbers in their back. 97, you can see the biggest day. They can swivel their hips, and now they've got that tackle. And I can do whatever with you, because now I'm a basketball player. I can juke you inside and get outside. I can juke you outside and just pulverize you into the quarterback. You got options. And I think Chuck Smith is teaching them how to flip his hips, get them parallel, and then press. Now you got arms and those and all that good stuff.
See, I'm learning a little something here on the show. This is great. This is great. The little inside lessons there. Yeah, man. You got me a little more excited about Adafio Way there. Because I'm kind of in wait and see mode. I saw it last year. I love what I saw when he slid inside. By the way, him versus guard is just a total mismatch. But the pure pass rush ability. It's just like it's something that comes natural to David Ojabo. You watch the two of them side to side. Ojabo, I mean, things can change in the middle of the rush, and he's going to adjust and just find a way to get loose, find a way to get to the quarterback. And Adafi Owe just looked really stiff hip to me, just a more linear type athlete. So, man, maybe this coaching really is the golden goose. And I mean, you've touched on this a couple of times with Zach Orr, the difference between Zach Orr and Rob Ryan, now bringing Chuck Smith in. When you got young players that are developmental players, not in the sense that they're late round pick and it's going to take, but they need a lot of development. Position coaches have got to be important.
Oh, it's the most important position on any football team. If Nick Saban had poor assistants, you think Nick Saban would be very good? You need guys who can translate your mind and take that and give it to the players as in simple terms and as easier terms that they can understand and apply in their positions.
Right. And everybody learns different. Everybody learns differently too. So they got to be able to individualize it.
Absolutely. And I think a lot what happens in the NFL, and I think you've seen kind of the fundamentals kind of doing this, is you brought in a lot of guys who don't coach anymore. They tell players what to do. And I think the Ravens have kind of gone back and brought guys who love teaching, who want to teach a guy how to press, teach a linebacker how to press a guard in the space, press him to the line of scrimmage, and use him to help you, tackle the running back. Like those simple things, footwork, hand placement, all those things that you watch some teams play defense. Oh my goodness. The linebackers aren't using hands. You kind of can see that up in Philadelphia. They brought in 2 new guys. Everybody was high on Kobe Dean. I never even was high on the Kobe Dean. He just never used his hands at Georgia. He was kind of a run-through guy. And now you're seeing it. And now they're bringing in guys who can play with their hands. And I always
get Kobe Dean seemed to benefit from everybody that was going around him. I mean, he was just free. He was just in open space by himself all the time. So yeah, I had him. I did not have a first round grade on him, Dennard. I had him I want to say in the somewhere around where he went. You know what I mean? The 40s, 50s, something like that. He's just got a lot to learn. I think people looked at him, the athlete that he is, and
that in itself is a show what in the NFL. Is you got a lot of guys in college who were safety school or running backs in high school get moved to linebacker because they're run fast and they're physical. And then they're never taught how to play linebacker. So all they know how to do is be a heat-seeking missile. They come into the league and you could be a heat-seeking missile, but these guys are much bigger, much faster, and that time to kill is a lot smaller.
Right. And, we see it even with Trenton Simpson, this year's draft pick. His GPS and his mind really needs a lot of work, but he's a heat-seeking missile. And that's one of the reasons that I was so excited to not only get Roquan, but, man, I'm glad we paid him. I know a lot of people don't want to pay inside linebackers, but Dennard, they just don't make them like that in college. They don't come out ready like that in college. If you got a linebacker like that in college, chances are he's not the athlete that Roquan is, say. Maybe some small school guy in Montana or some thing like that where he's technically sound and tough and big and, in control of the whole defense, but he's not the athlete that the NFL, like the Roquan Smiths of the world it's just very, very rare. And it seems like they're getting harder to find at the college level as all these guys are just, more athletic, like you're saying, converted safety types.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue I've seen. Think about the league now. How many middle linebackers that were like Luke Kuechly types? You got Fred Warner, you got Roquan, you've got the stud duck down in New Orleans. He's a man child. He's a man child. I was hoping the Ravens would trade for him before they traded for Roquan. I thought he might have been on the block. Roquan was my first pick. I actually told Mike at the beginning of the season last year when the rumors came up, I was like, that's the trade I would make. That that would solve every last part of our problems on defense. And
see, and I gotta separate my bias as an original Ravens fan from reality, because okay, am I just in love with linebackers? Because you mentioned Bart Scott and I lit up, man. The Matt Backer, one of my favorite players. All the other guys that played next to Ray, there's some good ones, man. CJ Mosley, but we went through 2019. It was a great. You said it earlier, and it really just shows you. And then you saw when PQ was feeling his way and not having a leader, how we had to keep bringing the LJ Forts and the Josh Bynes in. It's just I think that the linebacker position, if I was to sum it up and kick it to you on this, it makes the job of everybody else on the defense easier.
Oh, without a doubt. If you got a guy who can stop the run and play the pass in the middle of the field, your safeties can now look outside, not go outside, but now they can look. And that safety getting over the top and making a play, or having to hang in the middle of the field too long and leaving that corner out by himself way too many times. And you can see that in a lot of the problems the Ravens had for years in the middle of the field. It was torture watching Ravens games because you know how teams were going to beat us. They're going to beat us right down the middle. And, we could not find a solution. And I think partly that had a lot to do with the design of the defense, whatever that might be. But I think now what we have and the design of the defense, having that type in the middle of the field, priceless to everyone else around them. Just makes everyone's life so much easier, so much simpler, because you don't have to worry about what's going on in front of you. Like if you're the safeties, you know that the linebackers and the D-line are going to be where they need to be because there's a guy up there who knows what's going on. That is mind-freeing for safety. And D-line knows that I got a guy behind me. If I got a question, I can look back. He can tell me. Or if I get reached, he may see it. Instead of staying in his gap, he may help me help you. And it's that's what I love about football is every guy has to do his job. But there are opportunities where you can be a man and show up in the hole because your one guy either got tied up or he needs a little help. That's the beautiful part of what having a guy like Roquan and now PK, if he can continue to excel, bring to the table.
He will, man. He will. It's going to be a great season for Patrick Queen. Just, man, knock on wood, keep those guys in the lineup all year long. But Dennard, I really appreciate you, man. This was awesome. I get to learn a little bit, which is always real nice. I learned from all the guests, but your perspective is a little different. Is a little bit different, and I tend to see things in scouting terms. That's my background. That's my mindset. But to really get into the position coaches, the specifics of it. So philosophically, we're the same, but I love being able to learn something from you. That's just phenomenal. I appreciate you bringing that to the show, man.
Absolutely. And like Shakira said, the hips don't lie.
Yeah, they do not. They do not. No.
They do not. You got stiff hips. Point it out.
Yeah. I have a lot of jokes that I'm not going to say right here on YouTube, Dennard. A lot of comments. They have lied to me before, though. I think I have been lied to. Yes. I tend to get.
Go ahead.
I was going to say something I shouldn't have, man.
Hopefully,
I tend to get lied to by
soft tissue injury gets better.
Yes, not so soft tissue, exactly.
Yes.
So with that, I want to say, hey, all Dennard's links will be below. By the way, Firezone show, and I'm going to try to have Michael Crawford on here soon, man. Try to get Chris on. Try to get the guys back on. Just starting back up, but yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
again, Dennard. I appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Take care. Maybe we'll have you
All
on
right.
the Firezone come up this season as we get rolling for sure.
Bro, anytime, man. Anytime. I
All
love
right.
it. I love working with Michael. So let's say thank you to my football family. Love my football family. Say goodbye to the people, Dennard. Appreciate you, bro.
Bye, people.